the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast. We talk about wrestling news and various topics from different promotions, primarily AEW, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and topics from around the wrestling world. Whatever we find interesting, and we hope you will too. We are a proud member of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and you can find our content on our podcast feed, the Social Suplex Podcast feed, as well as on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We also encourage you to check out the Social Suplex newsletter, which is published every month and available at socialsuplex.com and contains insane information from dozens of promotions around the world, as well as features and other such interesting news type articles. There was a new newsletter out last weekend, right, Trish?
That's correct, yeah.
I think the snowstorm we had has caused me to forget what day is everything.
Fair.
Okay, today is March 1st, 2026, Rabbit, and we are going to kick things off today with the WWE PLE Elimination Chamber, which came to us live from the United Center last night in Chicago. 4-match card. Big card. We had the ladies' elimination chamber match. We had the men's elimination chamber match. We had AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch and CM Punk versus Finn Balor. And we also had the debut of Danhausen.
Stop laughing already. You couldn't even get through the fucking introduction.
Oh, God, if you can't laugh, you might cry. We had the debut of Danhausen last night. We're going to get into that in a minute because I have not watched this, friends. I have not watched this. I saw the reaction. I skipped through all the Twitter videos because our Discord, after watching this last night, in some of the brief moments I was sleeping yesterday, begged us that I would watch it live and basically stay my feelings as I watched it. So Trish told me to do it. So I will, at some point, put it on and you'll hear the audio, but... it'll be a 2-minute clip of me listening to this thing or watching this thing. And I hope it's as good as I was promised. I'm concerned that it won't be, but you know what? We can only do what we can do. Life is understanding that there's going to be disappointments and we just have to.
Well, it just fits into current WWE, doesn't it?
It's so stupid. Okay. I can't be laughing this hard already.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the Elimination Chamber overall. I watched 2 matches on this card. I watched AJ versus Becky, and I watched Punk versus Finn Balor. I did not watch the men's chamber match or the women's chamber match, unfortunately, because I'm not that much of a glutton for punishment. But from the women's chamber match, we had Rhea Ripley defeating everybody to go into a title match at WrestleMania with Jade Cargill, which... I can't believe Jade Cargill's getting a WrestleMania singles match, let alone a title shot, but... or not a title shot, she is the title holder, let alone a championship match, but hey, I guess they had to pull the trigger at some point, and hopefully Rhea Ripley can get something out of her. And then we had Randy Orton. Or should I say the thing that has eaten Randy Orton. Is going to won the men's chamber match, so he will be facing either Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes, because Drew McIntyre is the current championship title holder of whichever belt this is. This is the one with the W on it, not the one with the planet. So he's going to win the W belt, but Drew McIntyre has an arranged match with Cody Rhodes on SmackDown on Friday night, because everybody, I think, thought that Cody Rhodes was going to win this chamber, and there's been a lot of discussion, and I think if you listen to Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave has essentially been reporting that they're going to do a multi-man match at Mania for the W belt, and it's just a question of...
Are we just going to call it the W belt
We
now?
should call it the W. I can't track what those fucking stupid belts are called. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, one's the, world championship and the other one is the undisputed championship. Whatever. It's just the big W belt and the one with the circle on it that looks dumb. They both look dumb. This is what we're powering through here. The Punk has the one that's got the circle on it. It looks like pizza. I'm a little hungry. So now Randy Orton is in this match, which I think people at one point thought was going to be Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, with possibly Jacob Fatu as the third person, which that might still be the case. Jacob Fatu is still out there, but there's some discussion about, is Drew going to lose to Cody? And I think it's worth pointing out that Drew and Cody have had 4 singles matches over the last calendar year on PLEs, I think, or
They've been feuding since August.
They've never not been feuding. And again, this sort of goes back to what we've been talking about, which is the absolute dearth of talent at the top of the card for WWE, that they're shoving in the ghost of Randy Orton's corpse. And we're supposed to be excited that this is something new and exciting. I mean, Mania's what? Like 2 months away? It's less than that because we have 40 days of Lent and Ash Wednesday was last week. So...
Maybe we should have had video for this bit.
No, we're going to keep pushing. Okay. What do you feel, Trish? Do you feel like adding Randy Orton to this match ups the stakes for WrestleMania? And is this going to be enough to fix some of WWE's ticket woes as it relates to Mania, and the sort of lackluster booking that a lot of fans seem to be complaining about right now?
No. They're at a point where I don't think there's anything that they could do that would significantly hype up this card from the level it's already at. So, in terms of the Rumble matches, so Rhea Ripley makes sense that she's in a women's title match, needs a big spot on the card. Everyone's looking obviously at Io Sky and asking why she's not in there. That's obviously the singles match that most people, especially online, seem to want, was her and Rhea. But see, the belt's on Jade. They were hoping they'd have Bianca Belair to do that kind of feud thing, the ender thing that they were doing. She's not ready, so they're doing this. And I get the feeling that will be a case of, what's the word? Just kind of a course correction. So it'll go back to Rhea, move on. But I don't see anyone being hugely excited about that one, or it being like a big thing that's going to drive interest. No. And it's the same with the men's one. Like, you're going to put Orton in there, Rhodes, Drew. It's like... It's funny because the multi-man used to be like the opener, like on WrestleManias, like for the last couple of decades at least. You know, you'd have a ladder match or something in the opener for the IC belt or whatever it was. And that would be it. And now we're at the point where they're just shoving all these people in, and they're going to have to work hard. They're going to have to do something, because right now it's not there. And, you know, then you're going to go on your mid-card, and you've got your Brock Lesnar Open Challenge. Don't think anybody really cares there. No. Especially if LA Knight answers it. We might as well not bother. And then you've got... Wow. Come on, like...
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And then... You've got Becky Lynch and AJ Lee probably in a rematch. If you've seen it once, I don't think you need to see it again, but, you know.
You don't need to see it once even, because it wasn't that good the first time around.
It's a difficult one. I mean, like, for them, they're thinking, like, so I get to put it on the chamber, right? So you build this chamber, it's like the CM Punk PLE, right? Before, you know, and then you have him and AJ lose to the WWE people at WrestleMania. That seems like what you do, right? So you'd have Becky Lynch beat, and then Roman Reigns, the ultimate kind of thing the ultimate humbling of CM Punk. It's like, oh, he needs to look up to Roman Reigns and Elias, and he'll get his Sunday main event. He can't even pretend it's a proper main event because of what he said last year, so that's kind of funny. We're not too far off a buy one get one free now. That'll be quite good too. No, but it's like it's just a kind of a very much a amalgamation of not pushing people upwards over the last few years and having this stagnation as at the top. And it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because they are talking about it like the creative is really good right now. I was stunned, absolutely stunned to see that quote in the Observer last week where you just find it where, because Dave was talking about the WrestleMania ticket sales and being so far behind last year. And there was a quote basically saying, because the TV ratings have gone up, which if you're basing anything off TV ratings going up in this period where there's been this huge adjustment, I think you're insane. Yeah.
You're crazy.
You're absolutely insane. Because we don't know, we can't annotate anything from them right now because it's all being done by, it's all by an adjustment. So we don't have a normal or thing to compare that to. But then when they're saying something like, his quote was someone saying, the audience is there, noted one person at the top, are they inclined to pay $10 gazillion for tickets? And it's like, right, so you're saying that you think the audience is completely there still, everyone's with you, it's not the creative, It's just the price of tickets that's causing all these issues. And it's like, what are you looking at and thinking is good here? What are you looking at and thinking is really strong? Okay, you're going to do your shoot stuff with Roman and Punk, right?
Yeah.
Where Roman's going to quote things from like podcasts that no one in that arena understands, like he did last time. But us in the other side who just like, who'll get the clips or just think it's funny because it's like, one, it's predictable. We did predict it.
Yep.
I had every line in that
you
promo
called
practically.
it.
But also it's just like, yeah, because, you know, people just get a kick out of Punk not being able to answer back, right? So they'll enjoy that. But in terms of like people in the arena, it's like that's a weird dynamic because they're going to cheer for Roman over Punk. They're going to cheer for Roman, and no matter what he says. So you've got a weird dynamic there. But fine, okay, big match. Is it one of the biggest WrestleMania match of all time and some of the promotions? No, of course it's not. Don't be stupid. Let's do that. And then it's like after that, there's nothing. There's nothing that you would see people even kind of thinking about, being excited about or energized with at the current time. And that's not a great position to be in. And it's this weird thing where you have this vortex because you can look at it and you can say, okay, but, you know, they said, I think Punk said that this was like the second biggest arena gate that they've ever done, right? Yesterday, behind the John Cena retirement in the US. And it's like, so you say, okay, so they've achieved that. But then how much of that are we talking about destination shows? So people going to, you know, PLEs because there's so few of them now in the US that they go to them expecting something. How much of that is because of the expectation that you drew? So you think about this, right? So they are very much reliant on gimmicks as of late.
Yes.
For these PLEs and for people to pay attention to them effectively, right? So they did, and not just PLEs, but TV episodes as well. So not only have we seen a ton more like title defenses on TV, and we're going to have obviously another one on SmackDown this week, but also you've got the promises made. So WrestlePalooza, yeah? We're going to have big surprises. What was there? Nothing.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing, right? Survivor Series, they ended it with a really cold stare down between Cody and Roman.
Yep.
Nobody cared about anything coming out of that, and they were angry that there was nothing. That was it. Went off. John Cena's retirement. They booed the booker out of the building. Well done. Funny, isn't it? The Raw Netflix thing with the Stranger Things, where we pretended that we didn't tease Chris Jericho to drive last-minute sales and last-minute viewership. The Rumble, where ESPN actually teased Chris Jericho. That's an impressive one. You know, you have your partners tease them, but you didn't deliver anything of any major surprise whatsoever. And then you come into this one, and you don't deliver anything that really energizes the crowd, to the point where Michael Cole continuously talks about how quiet the crowd is.
That was crazy to me. He's in the middle of the CM Punk match, and he's talking about the crowd is insanely quiet, and he's blaming Finn Balor's heel work. And like, because Finn Balor's a heel, the crowd's quiet. And there were moments in that match where the crowd definitely got heated, but I never thought the crowd, and again, we talk about the mics and all that other shit. I never thought the crowd was at a place where they were like overwhelmingly
United
hot.
Center. It's like 18,000 people. You can hear them, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was not. They had a few moments here and there, but his fucking entrance took for fucking ever, and the crowd died halfway through. Like they weren't into it. It didn't feel like.
But that's the thing, isn't it? So you have this. Do you remember like a couple of years ago when people would say like everybody there would eat everything up, right?
Yes.
They go to these shows are hot. It doesn't matter what they do to them. They cheer it. They botch anything. They still cheer it. Do that. And we said like at the time, everyone was like, oh, you know, that'll last forever because they're just spoon fed now. And people have this idea of like the IQ of the WWE fan. But actually, it's still the same cycle. It's still the same cycle it's always been. And now we're at the other end of the cycle and we really started seeing that with obviously the Cena Road stuff at Mania last year. It's like we're at the other end of the cycle now where people just boo. They just boo, or they just don't like it, or they just sit there quiet, and, you know, we pretend like it's like respectful Japanese fans, quote unquote, and so it's just quiet. And then that's never a good omen. So and it reminds me, it's funny, isn't it? Because we have this thing, okay, yeah, they're still doing these large gates, and they're trying to kind of reduce the kind of size of the audience for smaller shows to make sure everybody goes to the bigger shows. I always thought, to be fair, I was always really bemused about the shutting down like local venues showing Elimination Chamber stuff, because I always thought like this one's going to sell out, right? It's local. It doesn't need a fly-in audience. And so it made no sense to me to think like you're going to get last minute sales on this one. They always do even for Raw SmackDown, they do 3, 4, 5,000 last couple of weeks for all states. So it's like, This was such a weird, like, kind of statement. Like, oh, we're going to why are you doing that? You just make yourself look like you're in bigger issues than you have. But creatively, like, I don't see anything.
They did
I still don't see anything. And the sound of things is like, it's fucking chaos. Like, they've got no idea what they're fucking doing for Mania at the moment.
Which you can kind of tell based on the booking. Seems like it's extremely arbitrary and like, you know, I mean, all right, let me ask you this question, right? So there's a lot of things that people have pointed to when it comes to the ticket sales. We've got tickets are expensive for WrestleMania. It's in Las Vegas again. It was in Las Vegas last year. Tourism as a whole for Vegas seems to be down. You have the issue of people traveling internationally to the U.S. because of immigration. I don't want to say crackdown because that suggests that it's normal, but immigration insanity. You also have cold booking, right? And a lot of people want to see, and it seems almost like this quote that Dave got was the guys in creative blaming the ticket sale side and basically being like, don't blame us. The tickets are too expensive. It's not our fault. The audience loves it. The crowds are still hot, blah, blah, blah. But like, what is your gut saying is the main reason they're struggling to sell tickets? Or do you think it's an amalgamation of all of those issues at the same time?
Of course it's an amalgamation, but at the end of the day, people will pay what they think the value is of something. And at the moment, they are in a situation which we warned about for years. You could see it come in. You could see that Cena was covering it up last year. Yep. We've been talking about this for a year and a half now, where when you're hot, you have to do things that help you to maintain it. And what you end up traditionally doing in trying to maintain it is relying on cheap pops, so like debuts and that sort of thing, right? We see that all the time. And you bring too many people in, or you bring people into your main event, and you have this stagnation. As soon as you have that stagnation, and you have no growth from the top of the card, from the bottom of the card to the top, no one be even like rewarding the mid card. You know, we talked about a few years ago how they got the LA Knight push, right, in terms of, you know, they gave them that mid card reward, so people felt like they had invested in that journey, and then they've been rewarded. All of that has stopped. There's none of that now.
No, and LA Knight especially just comes across like a chump. Like, you knew he wasn't winning the chamber.
Well, you geeked him, you geeked Sami Zayn. How many more baby faces are you going to geek? If you continually to geek baby faces when people get behind them, then people don't have a reason to get behind them. So what's the fucking point?
Right.
Like, so it's and it's the idea that it's all to do with pricing, but that doesn't make any sense to me in terms of their viewpoint, right? Because from a traditional wrestling viewpoint, you can say, oh yeah, it's overpriced. And that's also encouraging people to buy later, which we are seeing. Yes. You know, that behavior that we saw in AEW in like 2022, 23 has transferred over to WWE now. We see that. But it's also a case of, like, they can't do that. Like, we keep saying this, and, like, it's crazy how much, like, we come back to it. I read articles about WrestleMania ticket sales, and they're like, oh, it's fine because they're in Saudi next year. And it's like, no, it's not fine because they have to continually drive more profit in live events and everything that they do with TKO. That's how this works. You know, like, it's a case of they want site feeds, and to get site feeds, they want people to come into these cities. That's why Las Vegas got them back out of New Orleans, because they said the rate of people coming in from outside of town for these shows, and obviously then staying, using restaurants, hotels, etc., was really, really strong. And that's what they want. So if you get to a point where you want these site fees, but you're not getting those people in, and you're relying on just comping out the local market, well, that doesn't get you your site fees in the future, does it? Nope. That doesn't get you their profit margins. And they're going to be well up on live event profits anyway this year because of the sheer amount of Saudi Arabia events. You know, if you look at Q4, they just put their Q4 results out. And the one area that's down, you can look at live events, Q4 is down. And it's like, they didn't have a Saudi show in last year's Q4. Makes a big difference. So it's like, you won't see it as much. But the way that TKO are talking about it, you know, they don't just want the site. Again, it's that same strategy. They want it for not just the PLEs, but they want it for TV as well.
Yes, for Raw and SmackDown.
So
they want to be able to bring that in and get paid for it.
Yeah, and the only way you're going to do that is if you can sustain it at that top level. Like, it's that UFC thing, right? And there's a point where, you know, I was listening to Mark Shapiro's kind of Q4 thing, and he talked about people wanting to be there in the moments, right? They were, you know, they consume like the social media content, they consume this, they consume that, and they want to be there for these moments that become like viral things, right? But that only works if you actually deliver viral moments. Which might be my best transition ever.
I was going to say, not the way that they're hoping to.
Oh my.
All right, should we watch this thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, hold please. Let me try and technically handle my situation.
So while you do that, I'll do a quick like my un-Davism, where I can't normally do this. So WWE began teasing quite a while ago that they had a box and they wouldn't open it to the Elimination Chamber, and that mainly had people thinking, "Oh, Chris Jericho's coming back." And even though like Fightful went out yesterday and said there's no Chris Jericho, people still believed it because, you know, if you build something up and you put it on a PLE that only has 4 matches, then you're going to think that this is a big deal, right?
Yep.
That means it's probably a bit more, you know, to them in their minds, as you know, as in terms of the way that things have been teased in the past in WWE and that sort of big surprises, you know, like, you know, they're not thinking like Mr. Iguana, as much as I love Mr. Iguana.
Well, there was somebody
somebody
on Twitter who was like, I think it's Danhausen in the box. And the response was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. That would be the stupidest possible thing they could do. So they did it. It was. I mean, like, what the fuck? All right. I'm putting this on.
Here you go.
God help us all.
If anyone hates this, you blame our Discord. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, they're both opening the box. I'm going to narrate so you guys understand. So 2 dudes, crowbars opening the box. Inside the box, coffin. They're talking about whether it's a coffin, and they're questioning. There's smoke. So they just decide to walk away.
Well, you know, if there's smoke in a coffin, would you go near it? Like, I'm not opening that, are you?
Now the coffin is opened. Jesus Christ. The crowd noise is insane here. Oh, it's
like
Danhausen laughing.
Barely anything.
Okay. Oh, this is... Jesus Christ, he couldn't even do some sit-ups for this?
No, everyone needs to be Randy Orton, Sarah.
Oh, the crowd doesn't care about this at all. Oh, the dancers are terrible. Well,
what have they got to do? It's not fucking Little Shop of Horrors, is it?
What is
Do you remember
my God, it's like a Saturday morning cartoon version of what he was doing in AEW.
Do you remember last episode when we were doing the Time Warp song to
yes,
to Edge?
Yes. This is so bad. Why is he giving teeth to the announcers? What? The crowd doesn't give a fuck about this. Oh my God. Why are there dancers? What does this say about him?
It says he's a clown in a box. What else does he say about him?
Oh my God, that
fucking clown in a box. Did you enjoy? Was it worth the wait?
It's so much worse than I thought it was going to be in terms of like, I thought it would be bad but funny. It's not even bad but funny. It was just fucking pathetic. I couldn't imagine being in the crowd for that and having paid money for that. And the dude just slowly walks to the ring doing his little pose and that's it. Like, there's nothing.
But like, there will be people that paid thinking it would be a big surprise because they want to be there for that return moment or that moment of big debut, and they got clown in a box.
I mean, what are they going to do with him? Like, what are they going to do with him? AEW struggled with him, and I think AEW is better suited for a Danhausen than WWE is. Like, I think they can, and I realize that sounds sort of silly because WWE has that sort of, attitude of silliness sometimes, but I feel like AEW kind of takes that silliness and makes it more realistic within the world. I don't know. But that was so bad.
It's not even Eurovision, is it? Like,
it wasn't even like fun bad. It was just terrible bad. Jesus,
just
that guy got.
And the boobs are funny, like to me, but it's like that's because you've overbuilt the expert. And there's people like the reaction's hilarious because it's just like, oh, if you thought it was going to be someone else, then you played yourself, or WWE never hyped this up. And it's like, they fucking did. Like, they do this same stuff all over the time. It's the same when they did the QR code with, like, the Wyatt Six and shit. Like,
the people showing ass on Twitter last night, going on about how this was actually good actually, comma, and we just didn't understand it.
He's too highbrow. Like,
was
fuck
fucking,
off.
what was it, Bully Ray? Fuck you. What is that, Ice Cube Jr.? Fuck you. There was another one, was it Bay Dollar or somebody like that? It was like, fuck you. Like, shut the fuck up. You don't, like, it sucked. Just accept that it sucked. Say that it sucked. Don't try to gaslight me into thinking that it didn't suck because you get paid by somebody who wants to, or you get DMs from somebody who wants you to think this didn't suck. It fucking sucked. What a letdown. What a bummer. That guy's been sitting at home for months thinking about his WWE debut, and it was that. And that also tells me that people backstage fucking hate him, because there's no way on earth that was as half-assed as it gets. I mean, they couldn't come up with a better idea for this. They couldn't give you any information. It's just a dude in a cape.
What the fuck else can he fucking do? What can he fucking do?
Like, this is not a crowd.
He's a fucking puppet. It's a puppet act. It's a gimmick, right? He might as well, he's coming out of a fucking box, which is hilarious anyway, because this is the company that used to ship boxes with DX to OVW, and now you've got AEW shipping stuff to you. So you've not thought that one fucking through, have you? Because you look like the fucking minor league by doing that. Like, what are you fucking doing there? But it's also like, he's a clown in a box. What is there else to him? Like, don't tell me, and people go, oh, he's an indie act, right? Like Joey Janela when he went to AEW. Didn't work. I agree. Why? Because he's a fucking indie act. The act connects in that way because it's like Jiro Oakman, right? Who I like, Crucio, who everyone else fucking hates after they've seen it like 10,000 times. Someone comes in, it's funny for a bit, it's funny for the entrance, it's not funny once he gets in the fucking ring because he can't wrestle. And I've always said that. You can go, my hair's not new. me and Arakowski were here when he fucking signed for AEW, right? That's where we were. After watching fucking Warrior Wrestling events where I just wanted to just like give up on indie wrestling entirely every time he touched a fucking ring. Like, the guy can't wrestle.
But I mean, if this is WWE, and WWE is one of these great, phenomenal things that, they've got the creative, these are the geniuses, these are the people who do incredible stuff, like blah, 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 blah. Like, they should be able to come up with better than this, right? If you make the commitment to bring the guy in and pay the guy, and you've decided that you're going to use him, and he's getting a main roster debut, which we didn't give to fucking Ricky Saints, which we didn't give to fucking Ethan Page, which we didn't give to fucking Blake Monroe, right? None of those people who are all better wrestlers and better promos and better everything than this fucking guy. You decided you were going to bring him in, and you decided you were going to give a PLE debut and a main roster slot. And now what the fuck is going to happen, right? Because the last time we saw them do that, they gave Royce fucking Keys a main roster debut on a PLE, and that guy's been fucking dead for a while. Like, we haven't seen hide nor hair of him since the Royal Rumble. He has been off television, right? I think he's had a couple of either dark matches or main events or whatever they've done. But
good job on selling your company to other people coming across, But it's like, he's a clown. He can't do nothing. He can't wrestle. And they're like, is he going to get over with they're like, oh, I thought he'll get over with the WWE audience. Like, okay. I don't think so. Why? Because he's not doing the simple gimmick, right? He's not doing the boom, boom, Joe Hendry gimmick, right? Right. That's simple. He's not going to be funnier than R-Truth, right? He's not even going to be like, you want to go with like a mascot? You've got Mr. Iguana, right? Right. Does he come up off any of them? No. Does he come off enough to put him on a PLE that last year, just think about this for like, if you think about this for 5 seconds, it's fucking insane. Last year, Elimination Chamber, right? Yep. That PLE had a John Cena heel turn and The Rock. Yep. And this year got a clown in a box. He got a fucking clown in a box after The Rock and John Cena last year. Like, if you want to tell me that they're creatively, like, fucking firing on all cylinders, that doesn't coexist with Cena, Rock, clown in a box. Like, what's he going to be? He's going to go out and be, he can be an ambassador, he can be a mascot. Then don't reveal him on a fucking PLE, which people have paid an absolute fortune for, because you keep doing this. You keep promising, over-promising, under-delivering. And then it's like, and Triple H now is at the point where he's so fucking scared of everything, he's not even doing his fucking post-shows in front of the crowd. No, he's not. We're going to do backstage. We're going to do backstage comments, because we can't be in front of a crowd because things keep getting chanted at us because no one loves us anymore. sounds like the fucking Muppets there, doesn't it?
Certainly doesn't sound like a bunch of people that are confident in their creative output that they're,
Yeah, or you're so insecure that you now have refrained to backstage comments. Well done. And there's obviously no post-show scrums or anything like that, because God help if anyone asks about anything that you're uncomfortable with, like bringing back Brock Lesnar or like the Janelle Grant appearance last week, or I don't know, just your shit creative. Let's just go with that. Like, no, we can't do any of that. So he has to hide there. Maybe he's the clown in the box. Who knows? But it's like. It's quite funny. I thought that something that Dave Meltzer brought up on Wrestling Observer Radio this morning was like, not everybody was for this, and the people that weren't for this, that
essentially Dave was saying that it was very split backstage about whether to bring Danhausen in or not. Some people really wanted him, some people really didn't want him, and that there were people. Dave's opinion was that the people who didn't want him in there would have been like, "Fuck you, we told you," based on the response he got last night. Because, like, let's face it, the crowd booed like crazy. It wasn't at the end of that clip that I watched, but you could watch it was on the broadcast. It was on, like, there was a ton of live fan cam that were like, and it was not, these were not light boos, these were not like, oh maybe, no, he got fucking destroyed. Nobody was happy to see him. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I almost feel bad for him in that way, but then I don't.
For him too.
But then I don't, but because, like, if you're stupid enough to be posting like the Genie I'm free shit on Twitter like the day before, then I don't give a shit, because at that point you're putting the attention on yourself, which
Target's
is very good at doing. Dave made it quite clear that CM Punk pushed for him, and obviously the anti-Punk forces in WWE will be rubbing their hands a little bit at the moment. But it's like, do you think it was a reward for allegedly watching BTE for the last year?
Listen, somebody's got to put the dossiers together so that they can send them off to the legal team.
It's gonna happen, right? Someone's gonna watch it.
Yeah, Punk's not going to be doing that. He's too busy on Twitter.
He's got to watch. He's gonna have to watch. It'll be Becky Lynch tweets now. Right? I can go watch that. Watch her vlogs. That's gonna change all that.
Listen,
maybe she'll say he's broke.
You said it though. You were like, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's clear that it was like, okay, what do we have to give this guy so he'll lay down happily at WrestleMania and lose
for Roman?
Clean to Roman. Yeah. So it's like, we'll give him a big pay-per-view in Chicago. We'll give him his wife
clown.
big wins. We'll give him his fucking clown. The funny thing is, it's so fucking hilarious to me to watch WWE make the same mistakes with Punk that AEW did in like 22, 23, right? Like, and it's like, could you not have learned it? But I guess, you have an angry white man backstage. You have to make him happy. I don't know what to tell you. The match was shitty. I thought, I will say this, right? Like, so I have not seen a CM Punk match. I watched the Punk versus Gunther. I watched Punk versus Cena. I thought Punk versus Finn Balor was better than both of those.
Okay.
It wasn't good, but I thought it was better than both of those. I don't know whether it was they structured the match differently or whether Finn Balor was more equipped to like make things happen when Punk was laying down, catching his breath. We still had like endless wrist lock segments to open up the match. Like you have to love a match where it's like, oh, we're really into this. Like, let's just do wrist lock reversals for like fucking 5 minutes. And there was a couple moments during it where I was just like, you got to be shitting me. The GTS is just not working for him. He can do it early on in the matches, but once he gets tired, he can't fucking get these guys up. And the last one he did for Balor, it was just like, Jesus Christ, I thought he was going to drop him. Like, it just, I don't know. It doesn't look good, but he's happy he has the belts. People can pretend that this is quality wrestling. I didn't think AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch was particularly good either, but I didn't think it was. Neither one of these matches was good, but neither one of them was bad in a fun way. They were just bad in a boring way.
The structure was weird. The idea, I think, with the Punk one was trying to give like a really definitive win for him, right?
Yeah.
Which didn't really match the build that they did. And didn't get the crowd into any sort of crescendo, they couldn't raise them from the dead at one point, but it's like, it didn't build to anything to the way that you felt like any sort of accomplishment out of the finish. And so that was a real mistake, yeah. And look, the thing is, with like Becky and AJ and stuff, is obviously like they're relying on, Becky is good at getting matches out of people who have not wrestled for a long period of time or just aren't very good, right?
Yeah.
And even with whatever the fuck she's doing with her character, which just, it's hard. Like, it's hard to look back at what Becky Lynch was as a promo and the character-wise, and I look at 2019, especially in the start of that year, and I think about the Royal Rumble and the Raw after and the reaction, and, you know, this was someone who was, like, just drowning Ronda Rousey, essentially.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts. And then to see, like, I get what she's trying to do, but it's not working. It's not working. But, yeah, they're just passable. And that's where it's like, okay, so if you're going to do that, you need to have the moments, and it's like, for that crowd, and they don't have either. So I thought it was strange. Just a couple of quotes. Just want to ask you about this as well. So Nejma sent us I think it's from Reddit, a quote that just said, WWE have conditioned their fan base for decades to think that other companies are beneath them. The fans listen, therefore they don't watch. Now they trot out ex-AEW guys in a manner that begs the fans who already know who they are, and they're met with crickets. What the fuck is even going on here? And then Rob Viper on Twitter, who has had lots of good threads this week, just said, I watch with my own eyes at conventions people coming up to ex-WWE people who have been in AEW for years now and asking them, where have you been? It's why I'm so strong on Tony picking up every WWE cast-off. These fans are not following them. They find new WWE people to support. So I think these are pretty much, like, right in a way. And I was trying to think about this, so I'm going to ask a question on this. So CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are the two success stories in terms of taking people from AEW to WWE for WWE in recent years, right?
Correct.
In terms of them being at the top level. But is that because it feels to them like it's WWE acts going back to be successful rather than them coming from the top of AEW?
I think that has to be a part of it. I mean, clearly Punk was at a top level in WWE before he left, and I think Cody Rhodes, you know, maybe not at that level, but like
they still consider him theirs, though, in a way.
And that was also Vince McMahon. That's not bullshit. Like the initial push for Cody came under Vince McMahon's WWE, and I think that's an important piece because I think that's the stuff that, like, I think there was a time, and I think the sweet spot was probably right around the time that Ricky Starks left, where I think if WWE had gotten behind an AEW person and pushed them and made them seem important to the crowd, the crowd would have been more excited about some of these folks. But I think we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. You know, I just gave off the list. Like, none of the folks that they have brought in, again, with the exception of Punk and Cody, none of them have been given anything or done anything. They come in as mid-card jobbers that lose. Right. So, like, I think that hurts with your, you know, potential AEW free agents. But I also wonder if that hurts with the audience, too, that the audience is like, well, let me wait and see. Like, I'm not going to go gaga nuts for this person. Right. But I'm also I do find it kind of interesting that the crowd wasn't even behind Danhausen as a meme wrestler in the way they got behind, like, Mr. Iguana, say. Like, and I'm curious as to why that is, because you'd think that, you know, that's part of where I wonder if the bloom is off the rose. Like, if you're a WWE fan and you're watching guys like LA Knight not get pushed, are you then annoyed that there's another AEW person coming in, or someone that you see as less than?
But is it a case of they thought that, even though they, you know, that the Iguana thing felt more organic, right? He got over in
it did feel organic.
The show in When Worlds Collide show in Los Angeles, and then with like Joe Hendry, you know, that was like an internet thing that kind of blew up, and he was very good at that media thing. It was very like Zack Ryder-esque in terms of him rising himself up. And then obviously when they do that thing at WrestleMania, like, people are doing that because they're already invested. So it feels to their audience organic, right? In a way that this doesn't, because it's just that here's a presentation. And there's part of me that wonders if this, you know, this character, this thing that got over like 2021.
Yeah.
Right? It's 2026 now. And I know it's WWE, and much other things haven't moved on from 2021, at least. Some of them haven't moved on from 2014. But it's like,
well, he's also not done anything new or different with the character either. I mean, it's essentially the same character that there's been since 2021, and it's not an in-depth character, and he's not a good wrestler, so you're not getting anything out of it where it's changing or anything is, you know what I mean? Like, if you've seen one clip of Danhausen, you've seen them all. Yeah,
so it's like, what have you got? And but for me, it's like they look at it and just go, okay, so we've just presented this guy who was like they just see him as like a lower carder in AEW, and we're presenting him in a top slot. But we have this guy, and we have that guy, and we have that guy, and we have our truth that we've had for the last, you know, 2 decades, who's been doing those comedic slots. Like, we don't need this guy. Actually, we want someone big. We want someone fresh. You know, if we're going to pick up, we want a big returning name. We want a Jericho, right? Or I think they'd even take a Copeland initially. Like, you wouldn't do that for 3 weeks, but no, the crowd it would. Or, you know, I think there's only probably like 5 or 6 names in AEW now that could probably go across and be recognised by the crowd. And you look back, as I was mentioning, like 2016 earlier, in terms of, you know, years with really big houses and big gates that kind of were showing the signs of what was going to happen in 17, 18. But it was like the crowd that was there at the Rumble when AJ Styles debuted that went nuts. That crowd isn't there anymore. Like, they did this, I think, in Chicago because they thought that this crowd, you know, looking at what they put on the card, you know, they put a workman's match on for in what they thought was in Finn Balor and CM Punk, right?
Yep.
They put, you know, other people in their chambers that they thought would kind of get more pops. They put some younger people in, like Javon Evans go in. That didn't go well for him.
Nope.
Drake and that sort of thing. So I think they thought, okay, like, it will appeal to that crowd, but that crowd isn't there. That crowd is gone. So it's like, what is your crowd now? Who are you playing to? And are you delivering for them? And at the moment, I don't think they are. And it's all great because at the moment, we're selling these tickets when we do these destination shows, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And it doesn't matter that our weekly TV kind of thing is continuing a trend of, you know, down like for like in more than half of your markets, because you were still getting these gates and everything. But it's like, that's not how wrestling works, and it's not going to be. So it's like, yeah, it can still look okay on your balance sheet, but that won't help you with getting these bigger sort of things. And it's like, oh, it's got like 6 million views so far this morning across social media. I saw one media member post this morning.
Most of which are people shitting on it, though.
Yeah, like, that's not good.
It's a joke. It's a thing that everybody last night on Twitter was fucking shitting on it. That's why there were so many of these fucking WWE paid shills coming out to be like, no, it's actually good. You don't understand, it's good. Like, because it was a fucking joke to everybody.
Yeah, so that's another case of people saying, oh, these social media numbers are great, and it's like, no, all attention is great, guys. No, all attention is great. Like, don't kind of, yeah. You got this many views on YouTube, yeah, because people like chaos, and they like to laugh at things, not because they think it's good. And these are the things that you think, oh, they have these like little spikes, and this works out, and it's like, yeah, and then what happens? You get that long-term loyalty that encourages people to buy your tickets at $250, you know, for the cheapest seat. They stop. And it's...
Listen, they did a big gate, and Punk can brag about they did a big gate in his hometown, and yada, 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 and he got to come out there with his little, you know, because he's a straight man, he likes sports, he's not a nerd,
but they've got to continue to do these big gates, right? They have to continue to do it, and continue to beat it, and continue to beat it, and continue to beat it.
With who?
Exactly.
With who?
Tell me.
Like, there's nobody. I mean, Randy fucking Orton is getting added to the main event of WrestleMania. This is the bottom of the barrel we've scraped. With who? They got nobody. They got nothing. Maybe they'll pull something out of the hat.
Well, it's not Bad Bunny, is it?
No, it's not Bad Bunny.
See, that's really interesting, right?
Bad Bunny's going to show up, and it's, yeah.
So, Post had the WWE schedule for the first part of this year, and there was originally a Puerto Rico show, right? No, there isn't. And then they did all that press post Super Bowl where Logan Paul was out talking about how much he would like to face Bad Bunny at WrestleMania, and we can do this and we can do that, and now he's going to face Seth Rollins. Yep. Kind of interesting.
I'm sure it's because of injuries, Trish. I'm sure there's nothing else associated with it.
Nah, nothing. Right. Nothing at all. But yeah, I just find it very interesting because I think you can look at the numbers and be like, yes, it's massive. You know, they did massive business. No one's saying they didn't do massive business for that show, you know, and it was probably what they expected to do with the smaller arena shows when they do these things now, where the secondary pay-per-view PLE is supposed to be as large as the, you know, the kind of the top ones, same way that they did with like Backlash last year and that sort of thing. Okay. But their issue is sustainability. Their issue is continuing to get these sort of things at the very top level. And that's why you're seeing the focus on WrestleMania. Because they want the consistent site fees. They want the site fees to raise. They want the kind of ticket prices to keep raising so they can keep, you know, delivering increased profit. And that's where you have to be working 6 months ahead. You can't be working 6 months behind or thinking, oh, everything's fine now. That was a 2016 thing. Oh, yeah, we did this, you know, massive grossing WrestleMania and we did this huge SummerSlam weekend where every show sold out. And it's like... We're starting off with tickets that start under $100 for Raw and after Mania, and we are a 6,000 star. Like, what?
Well,
Come on now.
look
Like,
at
someone wake up.
look at last night, right? What percentage of people who paid what $200-$300 to sit in an upper level? You know, I know they drop tickets. They drop prices, but if you paid that much money to sit in an upper level for that show, are you coming back? Like, are you thinking to yourself, "Wow, I got real value for money"? I'm sure there were some people who did think
You do
they
it
got
for a
value
bit.
money.
You do it for a bit, right? You have this trust. It's that trust. They always
Right.
talk about that loyalty trust thing, right?
Right.
Where you can burn people a little bit. Like, people will come back the next time because they'll be like, oh no, it'll be better the next time. And then when it isn't, that's when you start to get that bleed off. And that is what we saw in WWE in the late 2010s. It didn't go straight away. You know, people that went to WrestleMania 34 still went to WrestleMania 35 in the most part for the regular travelers.
Yep.
But it starts to bleed off and you can feel it. And then all of a sudden you'll get like that huge kind of drop. And it's not going to affect them as much in terms of like profitability, right? Because they've got so many other things coming in. They're sponsoring everything. Like, they've got dude wipe things on Dominic Mysterio's gear, you know? I still don't know if I don't know if
Dom's dude wipes. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. It's 2026. Like, let's burn this society to the ground. We don't deserve to be a society anymore. We have Dirty Dom Mysterio has now got dude wipes logos on his gear in all of his matches. And this is a specific partnership branding that WWE has chosen to do, and that they are like, a press release was issued. Like, this, like, why, it's Nero fiddling while Rome burns. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's just throw it all away and try again. Let's go back to 1789. Anyway, sorry. I digressed. Fucking dude wipes, Trish. Dude wipes. Because men can't use the same asshole wipes as women, because if they do, it makes them gay.
Okay.
Real men, real straight men, have to have a hard wipe for their sphincters.
No one, please cut that. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Nothing scented. It has to be all pure man. Would John Wayne have used a dude wipe? God fucking yes, he would have.
Fucking hell.
As he cracked out the ghost of Ronald Reagan. He needs the dude wipe.
I don't even fucking remember what we were talking about now.
I don't know. All right, let's get back on track.
End.
I'm sorry. I told you
no,
it was going to be a fucked up day today. You know why. It just is.
It's fine.
Okay, we're going to focus. Focus. Dude fucking wipes. Okay.
Yep. But yeah, we work 6 months in the future. And in that in mind, we're not too far off Gunther's 6-month appraisal now, are we?
Oh, May 13th.
Yeah. But where's he in the WWE title picture, the W title?
He's a huge star now because of John Cena, so it doesn't matter what he's doing.
Yeah, we really use that to elevate someone when we pissed off half our audience that paid like thousands of dollars in Washington DC. Gunther, made him a
6 months
star. In around the title belts, in around the main event picture. Didn't get eliminated from the Royal Rumble. Cheaply. By Roman Reigns. No? Didn't happen? I feel like I'm in
huge star.
You ever seen the Family Guy episode with Stewie and Brian? And he's like, you know, you're gonna write a book, you're gonna finish it. You go some chapters, got some lines, got some characters, got some story, got some plot, got a happy middle end, got some plot divergence, got that. No?
Trish, you started that by being like, have you ever seen the Family Guy episode with Stewie and Brian? And I was like, aren't all of them with Stewie and Brian?
Well, I mean the book. It's about the fucking book. Right?
It is about the book.
I used to have like a soundboard with like that on it. It was just like, and it's got like a middle and an end.
Read your book.
Got some interesting characters.
Satisfying resolution for the protagonist.
Yeah.
Hero's journey.
Yeah.
Hero's journey in the ARC format.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. WWE sucks, folks. If you thought they were good, they're not. We're here to tell you. You didn't have to watch it. I'm not going to try and pretend that was a good match. I'm not going to get on this television program and say to you that it was a good match or that they tried hard. Maybe they fucking tried hard. I don't care. They're professionals. They're getting paid millions of dollars. They should have fucking tried harder. Or, as I have suggested in previous shows, handed their slots over to people who can actually wrestle.
They're on a USC thing. They just churn content now. But it's like... you need to continue to churn content at the level where people will pay the high prices for it. And you can say the audience is there, but they won't pay. But your audience has to pay. That's how your relationship works with TKO now. Anyway, right. On to very boring media relationship. No, it's not. So
we'll make it spicy. Come on.
Okay. So Paramount.
Oh God.
Out of nowhere, really, it felt like this week. Have agreed a deal to, they're calling it a merger with WBD, where they will pay $31 per share in cash for all outstanding shares of Warner Brothers Discovery, which means that the final offer is values Warner Brothers Discovery at $111 billion, including without debt at $82.4 billion. So they're going to carry the debt of Warner Brothers Discovery Company into this merger. Whereas if they'd been with Netflix were only going to take the streaming and the studios. So all the debt would have been stuck with the linear kind of TV side. So they are going to acquire that debt as well. So there's going to be a huge amount of debt across these two companies.
Once upon a time, the United States had a functioning democracy, and we cared about things like monopolies and making sure that one company couldn't control the market for any particular industry because we wanted to have fairness under capitalism. So we have this thing in the United States called the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission.
There's a Family Guy episode on that too.
I'm thinking of the Eminem song actually now.
Yeah, that works.
FTC won't let me be your I can't do it. They try to shut me down on MTV, but it feels so empty. Sorry. So normally, if we had, again, a functioning democracy in 2026, this would be the kind of thing that basically the regulators would not allow because they'd say, this is some fucked up shit. You can't do this. This is not cool. But the Ellison family runs Paramount Skydance. They are super BFF with all of Donald Trump's little buddies. And they really, really, really wanted to own Warner Brothers Discovery as part of their, whatever, primarily because of CNN. Because the goal right now in the United States is for all these media companies, the right-wing ones, to take over news companies and news organizations that might accurately report what the Trump government is doing in terms of every little fucked up thing. So that's why the original Netflix deal for this seemed like it was a done deal. And then the Netflix head went to the White House last week, and now all of a sudden Skydance is in here.
Literally 2 days later.
2 days later. And Netflix is like, yeah, no, we're going to bow out. So there's still a bunch of
regulatory hurdles.
Regulator approvals. There's no guarantee that this thing goes through, right? No. I think, anything can happen, and it's certainly possible that this doesn't happen. And anybody who says to you right now that they know what this means for AEW is fucking idiot.
Stop it.
Fucking dumbass idiot. And the best part was I had somebody that I saw that was like, yeah, now that AEW is being run by Paramount Ellison's, they're just as bad as WWE politically, so you can't be mad that like WWE is a MAGA company. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah, so that's out there somewhere. So, which again, that's also fucked up shit if you see it. So yes, this whole thing, the back and forth, it's going to get tied up. The state of California is threatening to try and block this because the state of California has a lot of pull because it's one of the largest economies in the world, let alone the United States.
But most of the jobs around this are based there. As well.
Correct. So we'll see what happens with this, but I think the main gist of it would be don't freak out.
Yeah, so look, there's other things as well. So it's very complicated. It's way beyond wrestling, right? Because at the end of the day, like some people are looking at it as like it's a plus because it should mean that there's still movie studios and that sort of thing that make things for cinema. Whereas the biggest threat for Netflix, as much as they said, we're not going to do this, everybody presumes that they would absolutely stop making so many films that were going to cinema and everything going straight to Netflix.
Right. Which
would make sense for their business, but doesn't help that industry. But it's like twofold. So there were things in the Netflix deal that, people in the industry, in TV and in movies were very unhappy with.
Right.
But there's also, very much now the realization, and Paramount have been very clear about this, that because of the duplication of how many roles would be across the two different companies, that it would lead to kind of colossal job losses. And that means, and once they merge, and then they're talking about, Netflix were talking about keeping HBO and Netflix like separate. you could have a situation here where they merge Paramount Plus and HBO Max, which would give them a subscriber base that would be more similar to what Netflix has, just underneath, so it would make them potentially more competitive. If you look at the lineups of the kind of the sports and things that they own and all the other properties they own, it makes, a pretty huge kind of behemoth. But there's also a possibility that Paramount only want something like CNN, so they can control that kind of what we talked about, that news cycle.
Yep.
And that sort of thing. And then they could actually try and move other assets as part of like WBD on. But again, that's down the chain because they still have to get this deal through regulatory approval, not just through the states like you mentioned, like in California and New York, but also, the EU want a large part of it because we do have, those kind of things that you talked about at the start around kind of, lack of competition, that sort of thing. So it's quite possible that it could be held up there. And if it doesn't go through, Warner Bros. Discovery gets $7 billion. And which would help with debt management and other things and requirements and things like that.
I'm sure bonuses for executives too, because we
David Zaslav is making a
he's
fortune
due for another
this.
Billy. Yeah.
To be fair to him, he's an asshole, but my God, is he made out here? It's unreal in a way, isn't it?
He's navigated this pretty decently.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
scary in a way.
Yeah.
Especially
maybe some of these men aren't incompetent.
Well, but the amount of incompetence that they've seen during his tenure, like the negotiations with the NBA and how much of that was a fucking mess and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
But at the end, he's going to end up making a ton of money, and you got to look at it. He was brought in to sell the company, and he either sells it here or he doesn't sell it, gets $7 billion, and then relists it. So it's kind of insane. But yeah, in terms of wrestling, I think people look at it and think, okay, it would be better for AEW that all their assets would be grouped together still. So you'd still have your pay-per-views, which, Warner Brothers take a large share of. You'd have your TV and then your ad rates and everything else that comes with that. And then just having that many hours of content with regular viewership is a big deal still if you with linear networks, and then having that potentially for Max as well. So you can brand all that together. Whereas if you have it in separate places, it would be much more, it's like a different thing. But at the end of the day, you're going to be negotiating with different people regardless, right? So you then have to emphasize how your price value is worth it to whichever. Are they looking to consolidate kind of what they offer? Or do less of kind of smaller things and just keep on the main things because the cost of something like the NFL is going to go. But we don't know. We're way off on that. They're kind of where AEW are going to be looking at is next spring. Right, because their option is the end of next year, so it's like they will start to look at it next spring. You think about in the last time they got the extension, it was like the April time because he was talks about when they showed the Punk footage, right, as a rating that helped them to get that deal. So it's that time of year that they'll be looking at next year in terms of negotiations. So anything up to them is as it is, right? We just see what happens, but. There's nothing to talk about in terms of their deal yet or anything like that, or to worry about. And the fact that UFC is on Paramount, if they've gone on Netflix actually has a WWE property already, so you can't say this is better and that and the other. But the biggest concerns right now are people's jobs, and what happens to CNN, to be quite honest with you. That's what most people are thinking about at the current time, and other than that, we don't know. But that's just kind of an update because lots of people are talking about it, and we're back to scaremongering again for the 7th straight year. So we just wanted to box that a little bit. I was going to do a transition, but it actually gives something away, so I'm not going to do that transition. Yeah, that would not be a good idea. Just on AEW notes, how much have you seen of Swerve's heel turn?
The match with Kenny was spectacular.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed his promo this week. Swerve is great. I'd watch Swerve do anything. The man wants to cut his fingernails. I'd even watch that. I will not watch him brush his teeth, but I'll watch him do pretty much anything else. So it's a good time.
So I thought it was interesting, we've discussed so much about heels lately. And I thought it was interesting, once he kind of embarked on the heel turn, and this has been in place really much since he was coming back, they knew that he was going to go heel. They changed the way it happened a little bit, but it was like, it's going to be on Kenny. that's what they were aiming for, and that's what they've done. And it was kind of interesting, the response, because I think he tried loads of little things to kind of get across, the more heelish tendencies in recent weeks. I think even since he come back, like the music was always heel music, right? Like that theme was a heel theme. He's gone darker in like dress and that sort of thing.
Even the chain is more menacing.
The chain, the leather.
Yeah.
They dropped the little hints with like the embassy stuff, which I think we'll see play out in the next few weeks as well, around the pay-per-view and just after. So it's like you built that up. And then you had him, and you probably felt like when you had the match of Andrade and you were getting quite a lot of support for Andrade, you're like, okay, he's, in a position where we can turn him and the crowd should go with us. Did you think that the crowd went with them? Like, or is it going to still be a work in progress to get them to actually boo him?
I think it's going to be a struggle, because I think, Swerve is great and good at what he does. So, and he's got that aura of menacing. He can, let me put it this way, he can be extremely menacing in a heel type of way. So I think he can get the crowd to go with him. But I think it's going to be one of those situations where you are going to be, to some degree, fighting the crowd, wanting to cheer for him just because they just love him so much, even if he's a heel. He's just so good at what he does. I don't know.
If you think back to like 2023 when they were trying to keep Swerve heel, when they did the end of the Texas Death match and they tried to have the interference to make him heel, but obviously that match got over so much and he got over so much in the match, and maybe there was some dynamics that kind of led to people latching onto him, but it was also like he was different, right? He was fresh, so people were going to latch onto him, and he was fucking cool, and that always has a part to that. But then they tried to keep him heel. They did the thing with like Keith Lee that then became the Dustin Rhodes match. It just didn't work, right? So you need someone really strong on the other side to make it work. So I think Brody, with his current kind of support, is probably a good one, because you're going into all these towns where he's tapped into that kind of the thing, the kind of cultural stuff that's going on as well. So you're guaranteed to get people behind him in a way that maybe you wouldn't have been even 3 months ago. And that's not to just, to look down on him as a worker at all. It's just, when you're hot, right? For whatever reason, when you're hot. So it's like, it's good to have him and Brody at Revolution. Obviously, with Omega not being there, you can then come back to Omega in the next cycle. And Omega makes sense because, if you're going to turn somebody, Kenny's always going to get support, right? Kenny Omega.
Yes.
He's in that thing where people just cheer him regardless because of the respect they have for him. So I think it'll work quite well. It's just one of those things where, once you put a group around him, you can use the kind of cheap devices, the easy things, as long as it's not Trench. Then, yeah. But you can put a group around him, and then that makes life a lot easier in terms of the cheaper kind of things and protecting him and that sort of thing. So it's one of them, it's like a work in progress, but I thought like the execution of the turn was just so good. And the crowd could feel it. Like it turns mid-match, like the turn is happening. And they feel it and they go with it. Similar to, it reminded me like the Kenny and Gabe Kidd match, where Kenny just moves in match because he's like, but whereas this one was more kind of organized than that one, which was more kind of reactionary. But it's the same thing. So then by the end, you're ready for it, but you're like, oh, it can't happen. And then it's like, bang. And then he hits you, straight afterwards. And it was good to see him going to get a big win because, he's put a lot of people over the last 18 months.
He has.
Not to say that Kenny hasn't, because Kenny is always doing the same. But it's like, it felt good to see him kind of get that big moment. And I think the interplay between them and, Paige as their kind of middleman, in particular at the start of this year, has been very, very good. And Andrade being kind of in there. And again, he come in hot, right? He's coming back.
He did.
He's figured his gimmick out. He's obviously got a lot more confidence in himself, or I don't know. He's figured something out about himself, right? He's tapped into something that he didn't have the first time for whatever reason.
No.
Or they didn't have with him the first time. Was it a lack of understanding? Was it, him coming in at a very busy time as they were coming back onto the road? And, you have this person coming in, and then obviously he comes in, but then you get Aleister Black coming in, and then you've got Punk and Danielson and Cole. So it's hard to kind of look at that. And obviously his headspace once Triple H came back, whatever. But it's like, he's tapped in. So then you have that kind of group, and that's worked for them quite well. So, and on that one, so, couple of questions that we got about AEW. So we got quite a few questions today, so
we did.
We'll go through it. And so Travis on Blue Sky was the first person to ask me, so I put him as down, but a fair few have now. They'd like our thoughts on Hangman Stip, and I think ONR, if you listened to One Nation Radio last week with James, week before, who went like pretty nuts. They'd like our opinion on the Adam Page Stip of never challenging again for the world title if he loses the Texas Deathmatch at Revolution.
I think I'm not, look, I can't say I'm initially happy with it, but I'm also in a place where I want to wait and see what happens, right? Because I feel like, let's see how it plays out, and then I'll make my determination. Like, sometimes I feel like with stuff, I don't want to get pre-mad about it, right? I think it's a bad idea on its face. If it's executed this way, I think it's a bad idea. I don't like the idea that it's like, oh, we can break it. Like, what's the point of having stipulations if you're just going to break them?
What's it worth if no one believes in it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he'll be a heel turn and blah, blah. And again, I have complete confidence that if that's the direction they want to go in, they'll be able to perform and execute it at a high level. But it's just a question of like, is that the direction you want to go in? So I'm kind of in a tentative sort of wait and see mode. I'm not, jumping up and down at this point. Like, on its face, it seems really stupid, but let's see how it plays out. And then I can get mad about it once it happens.
That's I like that. I can get mad about it once it happens.
Right. If it doesn't happen, I won't be mad. I'll be happy. Maybe Hook will come out and hit MJF in the face with the belts, and then Hangman will win.
Yeah, or one of his 10,000 recruits.
Yeah, like Shibata. It's good that Hook is there leading the group that Shibata is in. That makes a lot of sense.
He's leading
to me. Yeah.
Shibata. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me not think about that. Jesus Christ. No, we're not thinking about that either. Like, you can't use that as to get out of this. No, so a few things I want to kind of point out about that. So I mentioned a Texas Deathmatch last time because I knew it had been brought up. So sometimes we just kind of throw things out there as like a thing. But it's like, so yeah, that's not a surprise to me. It's complicated, right? So I think that they obviously knew that they needed something for this match. Because one of the bookings since, October, November. And as I said, if you set it up differently, if Paige beats Joe, right, it's at Full Gear, and then you do the four-way, you find a way to get into the four-way. So you tease like the match that people wanted, which was the Paige Swerve one, right? And then you find a way to get Joe in, and then you put MJF in, and then you have him steal the belt, and then you have, the idea is you're supposed to be like really kind of wanting this babyface to win the belt back, and then you want to do the big blow off because you're playing into all the things that have happened before. And Paige, the idea was him trying to say like, I beat you in a straight wrestling match, but then I know you're going to stack the deck against me. And then we did the no DQ thing. Well, what Paige couldn't get disqualified thing, which is what Max proposes we want in the O2 and that sort of thing. And I know you won't behave, and then you cheated, but you won the title by the low blow. So you gave me a low blow, and then you stole the title. So it's like trying to eliminate them things. And then to give the babyface like an advantage as well. Like, this is his match. He's only lost the one, which was the interference one with Swerve. And it's like, okay, I get all that. The Stip, it feels to me like they had an ending and they were trying to find a way to get to it, right? Because he earns the match, and he doesn't even have to try to earn the match, really, does he? Yeah, we spoke about this last time. Like, Andrade has to beat Kenny Omega, beat Swerve to get to the match with Hangman, right? Hangman has to beat Mark Davis because of the screw up and whatever. So it's like, it didn't feel like he had to really, like, it was a struggle for him to get there. And then he has the match. So why does he need to put this on the line? And you can talk about him being impulsive. You can talk about him kind of making these sort of things, like these kind of matches, like he did with the tag thing with Swerve, right? Against Hook and Hobbs. He just made it, like, he hadn't spoken to Swerve, sort of thing, it's going to be there. Like, he's been doing that sort of thing, but you've not made a big enough deal of that on screen for it to come across. So it then feels like, why is he fucking offering this? He has the match, right? He has the match with MJF. And then they're going to do a coin flip on it. So why does he need to put up his career? And it's like, it feels to me like they had something in mind, and then they're working backwards. And I still don't think they've got round that yet. I still don't feel like they've found a way to get that stip in where it makes sense. Where it makes sense for the babyface to put it up in this scenario. Especially when you've earned that match to start with. It's the sort of thing that normally you do once you haven't earned, when you need to earn a match. You say, I want this match. In exchange, I'll give you this, right? And it kind of felt similar. Do you remember when Bryan Danielson put up his like full-time career against Swerve
Yep.
Strickland? Or even when you look back, like the Cody one was like this as well with the Jericho thing. So they don't feel earned, and I think that's something they've still got to find a way to do over the next few weeks. So they did a good segment on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Paige very good at doing the smart babyface segments, and MJF will play into that. He seems to behave. He's been on pretty good behavior since December for good reason. But with Paige, he doesn't cross him. You notice that? I keep noticing that. It's kind of interesting. But it's like, so he'll work with him like that because, at the end of the day, it's someone he works with. Paige will work. So it's like, it was a good segment. It made him look a smart babyface. You can tell, like, they want the crowd back behind them as much as they can. They recognize that they didn't get enough during the build. So they did what they had to, what they could do there. But the logic of it kind of falls short. When it comes to the actual thing, I do want to say that I keep seeing things like, yeah, but it's fine because if he loses, he can't challenge. He can just win a casino gauntlet, or he can win a battle royal, or he can win like Owen. You got to understand, like, if you're going to stick to the stipulation, so if they have him lose, right, you have to stick to this stipulation for that period. If you were going to stick to it, theoretically, so you're going to stick to that stipulation forever, right?
Right.
There is no casino gauntlets. There is no Owen. Like, fine, if you wanted to rerun the Osprey thing, there is none of that. It's not there. It doesn't exist. You cannot do that. It means no challenge means no challenge, right?
Right.
So that's what it means. It doesn't mean, we can just do it another way. Like, no, that's it. So you take them, you're taking those theoretically, if you were going to stick to it, and AEW made a thing of sticking to their stipulations in the past, it would mean that you are literally saying, no gauntlets, no Owens, no title matches on pay-per-views. No, not that. You're not getting that Swerve Strickland Hangman Page title match. You're not getting that Will Ospreay one. You're not getting all those things. And this is taking out, your biggest pay-per-view guy, especially as world champion, on pay-per-view in their history. It just is, right? That they have right now. Like, you're taking that out. You're taking them out of them potential main event slots on TV where you're going to do that sort of thing. You're taking them out of these sort of programs like we saw, this spring, where you have all these guys in the main event. And it's like, all right, it's fine because we're going to take out their biggest merch seller. We're going to take out their biggest pay-per-view seller. We're going to take out, one of their biggest TV guys and biggest ticket sellers. And we're just going to lower them down and someone else can go up. But here's a secret. Someone can go up at any time, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Like, someone can go up at any time. To tell people that they spent 7 years, I think James was right on this. Like, you are telling, if you keep to that stip, right, you would be telling your audience that the 7 years that they invested in this guy, this journey they went on, people want winners, right? People don't go to baseball in September when everything's fucking losing. You're telling them that they wasted their time. And that's a dangerous thing to do. And it won't mean that anyone else gets elevated up into that point because people will just follow their journey then, right? There's actually, if you do this, you actually put more focus on Page than you would have done if he just loses the match, like a feud ender of Max at Revolution, and moves down the card, right? You are putting a sustained focus on him because of what happened with Cody. People will be looking for it then. They want to see, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to treat this guy? What the fuck are you doing to this guy? They'll twist some of the things that were said elsewhere and were said by us in like the autumn to think like, oh, this means he hates him or like that. We've always explained it's much more difficult than that, But they'll start on all that. You'll start to get this kind of thing like, are they failing him? All that sort of thing. You are running. It's risky, right? It's really, really risky, and no one pretends like if they do this, it's not risky. No one is under the impression that it wouldn't be, but it's like, you are playing with fire in that aspect. And is it fire that you need to be playing with? I don't know. And the other thing about it, so if he loses the Texas Death Match, it is a signature match, right? So what have you left him in the last 6 months as a babyface? If you do that, right? So he loses the cage match after you build up, his history in cage match was Swerve Strickland. So you took that away from him, right? Especially with the way they did that cage match. Then you take this other thing away from him, and you take like his word because he's promised all these different things and then he's failed, right? But so what do you have left as a babyface? And then that becomes a question. So, okay, so do you turn him heel? Do you move him heel onto that side? Is that something that he considered? Because he can see that what happened last year and that sort of thing. And he's not got many options left on the babyface side now. You can see Will's coming back. You can see Moxley eventually moving to the babyface side. That stuff that we spoke about on the Poison Rana show that we did. Maybe there's some truth to that kind of thinking, in terms of working out where your position is. The same way that I think Swerve looked at the landscape and thought, if I go heel here, it's going to be much more beneficial to me. And I'm not kind of doing that as paraphrasing. I know that's something he's thought about from discussing it with people over the last week. So it's like, you have to look at that sort of stuff. It's like, you aren't leaving much as a babyface. He would have to go heel in that aspect, but you can't do it straight away because Strickland's just gone heel. You don't want to impact on that. So you have to kind of make that journey to that. And then you have to have the fans with you for that journey if you do that. You could have him win and become, and have other people chasing him. What does that do to MJF? Could you do some interesting things to the story things, Because if you look back at where they started this program last year, the whole thing was MJF not being able to face that he couldn't beat this guy, clean, right? And he couldn't live up to this guy, and he was all talk. But he also was like, you aren't who you say you are. You aren't, you're the main character, but I want to be main character. But also, like, you're like a mirage. You're not who you say. So you can play into that, right? You could have Paige kind of lose, and then that's the idea. So if he was to go back on his word, then he's everything that MJF said he was last year. So you can play into that. It's a long-term story potentially here. There's also the thing that you have Paige win, and MJF realizes that he's still not got somewhere and actually changes and becomes something else, which didn't happen when he lost to Mark Briscoe, right? So there are options. There are things that you can look at. But the problem is if you do the stip and he loses, right? Well, okay, you give Max the feud ender. You give him probably the definitive win of his title reign. Whether he loses to Kenny Omega down the line, he's going to be breathing down his neck with his numbers and everything else and fan support, I'm sure, because I can feel that coming like a fucking truck. Or, he carries it to All In with Ospreay, but it's like, whichever way, this will probably be the definitive win of this title reign, right? But then it's like, you're stuck with a stip where you are devaluing to some of your audience straight away who the other guy was. And then also, you are then left with a position where all the heat is on the promotion, right? No matter whose idea this is, all the heat's on the promotion because you're either going to move this guy down to the mid-card, and it wouldn't be like mid-card, it'd be like the Jericho one, right? You're still going to be same TV time, same TV spots. It's funny because he actually does generally move down in between. He's the guy that will go very small on TV and that sort of thing compared to some of them. But it's like, you can't do that then because the focus is on you. So in a way, for a performer, if you were to take this story, all the heat's on the promotion because eventually you're going to break it, right?
Right.
Here's the thing about this. Right? If he wins or he loses, it's still a world title story. And I don't think people realize that or want to realize that, or that's what it would be. Right? If he wins, he wins the world title. If he loses, it's a stip where eventually he's going to break it. And it's a world title story again. So as a performer, if you're taking this on, you're taking this on because it keeps you in the world title picture. He's unable then to move you down and slot you underneath because everyone's going to be on your fucking back then. So he can't, for Tony, he can't do that. So there's a part of it that from a performer is a risk that may be worth taking. If you think you're going to be moved down potentially, or there's a prospect of it, which after a big title run, for some people that is the case. Well, now he can't. But he can't put you in a casino gauntlet 30-minute all-in. So you need to be in a feature match, right? He can't put you in like the battle royal. So there are things to do with it, the parameters that you can say is a risk worth taking for a performer because it should put you in them spots. And that's different from like the Codyverse. Whether Cody was trying to isolate himself because he didn't want to be involved in all these things or he didn't want to turn heel. Well, Paige is neither of them things. He has no problem working with anybody. Politically, he's probably the most central guy, I would say, in terms of how many he can work with everybody there, whereas others won't work with each other. He can, so it's like, okay, so there's not that issue, and there's not the issue in terms of, not being bothered about turning heel or not because he did it already. And the only thing about if he turns heel too soon is people are going to say, well, you waited that babyface run, and we're like, yeah, well, we told you that 6 fucking months ago. But it's like, so there's so many complicated kind of bits to it. And it's like, you can see ways in why a performer might choose that kind of option, but you have to get it right Because if you don't, and even if you do get it right, and he does turn, and you do this huge world title program, maybe in the spring of next year, because that's when they obviously want the big kind of programs looking at the option year. You could get all that right, and people could still fucking hate it, and the heat could all still be on the company because you broke the stip. And did you need to do it in the first place? It's risky. I'm yammering now. All I'll say is, look, they have a plan. This is not a situation. Whether he wins or loses, they have a plan. It's not a case of like last year when they pivoted into him and then they had fuck all for him to do afterwards. And the people that will tell you last year of who he pitched and what was turned down, how frustrated kind of people were around kind of his booking as world champion, will tell you that there's a plan for this. And they know what they're doing next, and they think it's going to work. Not everybody does. When they talk about ONR, Rich, obviously, he's pretty insightful. He knows a fair bit, and not everybody is on board as that, but the people closest to it are. So whatever they do next, there is going to be follow-up. And it's a world title story. That's all I'm going to say. It's a world title story. Whether he wins or he loses, it's a world title story. So that's something for everyone else to kind of figure out and think about. But yeah, I guess, look, it was a cold match 3 weeks ago. Now everybody's talking about it. We're talking about it. People are asking us to talk about it. So yeah, I guess in that way it worked. Is it worth it? We'll see. I've rambled too much about that, but there's so many different bits about it, and yeah, it's a risk, isn't it? So
we'll have to see how it plays out.
We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, and then one other question that we got was from Wooster on our Discord, and just said, I have a question for the pod, please. This is probably a dumb no-brainer, but I was thinking about how annoyed I am that MJF has basically cut misogynistic racist part in his promo, mainly referring back to the promo in December. But the company does not telegraph that behaviour is a bad thing because he still has fun, cool merch. I've just lost my bit. Where's it gone? This is how it is today. This is just how it is. So there are several new shirts and scarves in a few weeks that he's been champion, and it's got me thinking, is there a reason most wrestlers prefer to be cool heels in order to push merch and increase profits? Hangman and maybe the Death Riders are two of the very few acts that offer less merch when they are heels. Do you want to take this? I've talked too much in the last 10 minutes.
I mean, I think it's part of it, but I also think at this point, that's less of a thing than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people will buy merch of their favorite wrestlers regardless of their alignment. And I think it has more to do with momentum and stuff like that. I think MJF has always been somebody who wants to put a lot of merch out there. And I think especially now when he's sort of doing a rehabilitation press tour, I guess would be the best way to describe it. I mean, I give the guy a lot of credit. He's out there really working hard to try and make sure everybody gets back on his side. And, he has a lot of fan support. And I'm sure that the t-shirts and stuff like that are a big part of that. But I don't know. I think it's tough to be like, I think it's tough to kind of sort of forge a moral equation with something like this. Like you'd like to think that he doesn't, he's people are like MJF. They want to wear his shirts, I mean, it's kind of tough to, I don't know.
I think it's twofold, right? So it's firstly, a lot of some wrestlers have control over their merchant or have take bigger control over their merchandise than others.
Yes.
Some will just okay everything. That's just, so there's a difference in that. I think there is an element of some wrestlers who don't want to play, who play on a screen heel, but maybe don't play the meta heel, right? So they won't do those sort of things that will affect kind of their marketability or affect their kind of their numbers because they trade off them.
Right.
Especially in this day and age, TV numbers, merch numbers, people trade off that. They want it for their impression of who they're seen as stars, that sort of thing. And that means that the very old traditional way of, heels not having merch, the baby faces having merch or that sort of thing, we've moved away from. And maybe most predominantly when it came with like the NWO and that sort of thing, and when that kind of blew up. But it's a case of now, I think some people are looking at ways that they can be heels that maybe are different from what they have been in the last 20 years because they're trying to look like actual heels. They're trying to actually get booed. So it's like,
Right.
it's very, very difficult now in this day and age because people want to like you in the meta sense, right? They want to boo you, but they want to like you in
Yes.
the meta sense.
Yes. They can
So
understand that you're playing a character, but they would like to believe that the person behind the character is, you know, someone that's worth rooting for, which I
exactly,
think is
right?
what is when I talk about like an MJF Redemption press tour, that's kind of what I'm talking about. People want to
Yeah,
believe that this is someone that they can trust and support. You saw
yeah,
we talked about the Hangman Marty Skrull picture.
yep.
Like, you want to believe that this is a good person. And
Hmm.
I think and support them, and that's a big part of it. You can handle a character being a bad guy because you ultimately were furthest point where we think that wrestling people are the same people backstage that they are on screen.
Yeah, we've had some interesting discussions in Discord this week where it's like people kind of do believe that these characters are
Right.
at times like who these people are, and it's really funny sometimes when you get descriptions of people and it's like completely different from the character. Like Keno, I always get descriptions of Keno that do not match his character at all. Like it's not hidden turn up to 10, it's just completely different. But it's like, which is kind of cool because he sounds like such a reality. People know him, so he's completely different. So it's cool that you can do that sometimes, that you can flip. But it's like, yeah, we have that thing. So we want that meta face, but that on-screen heel, and we want to buy into that rather than kind of buying into someone playing the heel all the way through.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is. So, but there are people that will look at reducing their kind of output of merch or that sort of thing. I'm not having the big kind of babyface style designs or things that are really going to catch on because it's another thing you want theoretically these arenas to be full of merch for your baby faces, right? You want people to buy into them and that sort of thing. And if you don't have that, does that work? I don't know. It's difficult in this day and age now because also we are in the era of the kind of the anti-hero and that sort of stuff in terms of people will buy things that they think make them cool. So, are you going to go out and buy a Batman t-shirt or are you going to buy a Joker t-shirt? You
Right.
know? So I do think it plays into all of that in the kind of cultural demos as well, the way that we think about things these days, and that thing of wanting to be. Actually, I don't want the Superman thing. Everyone else has got the Superman thing. Like, so, let me buy this. But I do think it's a case of when you have things like, we still mentioned like the Max promo, like, you then have to have the baby faces on screen overcome things, right? So you
Right.
can you can do the kind of the meta stuff. I do think you have to be more careful with that. I do think the baby faces in AEW should do far more press and heels. I do. I absolutely think that should be the case. They should be the people selling the company, not the heel.
Right.
That's just my personal belief. But it's like so in terms of what's said on screen, you have to have the baby faces overcome that. When you don't is when you can run into issues and it starts to kill off your baby faces. um Roman Reigns is doing his like no pop and all this stuff on Seth Rollins when he was a babyface, stuff like that.
Yep.
They're the stuff
Yep.
that's harmful.
Yep.
And then when nothing comes back of that, that's when that other person, that person's brand, that person's character, everything else gets hurt. So yeah, it's just a case of you need to do all that stuff on screen. At the end of the day, promotions are going to market who they think their top stars as top stars. And then there are people that will lean into it. There are people that will look at different changes in their presentation, whether it be music, like we talked about with Strickland earlier, or what we said with Moxley and with Paige, they all did that, or they changed the move sets, or they changed their promo style and their cadence, or whatever it may be, or they change the way they interact on social media, or they don't interact at all. Whatever it may be, there are people that will be looking now for ways to do the kind of meta heel stuff. And that doesn't mean that someone needs to come out and be like a complete prick or something like that. It's just they'll find ways to do that so that people are less willing to go into a building going, oh, I really like that guy. But actually, no, you need to go in and go boo them. So there will be, I think that's kind of one of the next big challenges in a way, is kind of people figuring out how to get booed on a consistent basis. And to get round that kind of social want of people wanting the wrestlers' characters to reflect what they believe um, in terms of the people behind them that we're seeing quite a lot at the moment. All right. Just a couple more. I wanted to just discuss New Beginning on Friday night because the New Beginning USA show in Trenton, New Jersey, because I thought for me, like the production was shocking, okay? New Japan shows, production, USA shows, they're just shocking. And I don't think other than the G1 in 2019, we've had a good produced show. But I was kind of taken by some of the reaction to this show because look, there were some bits in the middle that could take or leave, and they have a belt problem like everybody else. Like every match belt, the first one was for a belt. But what I really liked about this show, and I wanted to talk about, was they really positioned the people that they want to kind of be the focal points in New Japan at the moment as their stars. And it feels like so long since they've done that. You know, last year, Resurgence, we had the IWGP Heavyweight title in the semi-main event. Windy City Riot, we had it in the semi-main event. We've never had this crossover in recent years between the USA shows and the Japanese shows. In fact, it's felt for a long time like there's no connection between them. Like the USA shows were like a tribute act to previous eras of New Japan rather than the current one. And on this one, it was very, very simple. We had Tomohiro Ishii, obviously AEW fans in the US are well aware of, people in the previous eras of New Japan are well aware of. And then you have him drop the strong belt to Alec Bolton. And it was a good match, Bolton got really over by the end of it. And it's like, okay, so here is the guy that represents, New Japan that you may have seen, and this is our guy now. And then they have the Knockout Brothers, come out and do their thing against Gates of Agony. And okay, I wasn't massively into the match itself. Not sure the styles mesh well, but it was like, these are our guys. These are our guys now at the top. And then the same with the main event where you had Tsuji with the double belts, and he comes out and he just looks like their guy. He looks like their guy in a way that he didn't do in previous visits to, the US or the UK or anything like that. And you have him go over someone like Andrade, who obviously has been much hyped in AEW. And then he cut his promo and he's basically, I'm the man. I'm the guy. This is New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's not the Bullet Club anymore. It's not, Okada anymore. It's not Tanahashi anymore. It's not Naito anymore. It's not LIJ anymore. This is New Japan now. This is our offering to the US. It's New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's not New Japan Strong. It's not New Japan USA. This is New Japan. And it felt like such a relief to me because I was seeing all the arguments beforehand, like Andrade should win the global title off Tsuji, and I thought they were fucking ludicrous. Because I'm like, the guy's just said, I'm splitting the belts, right? He's a babyface, I'm splitting the belts, this is what we're going to do. We're going to try and retrench kind of the superiority of the world title belt, so you have to be New Japan contracted to challenge for it. You need to be, it needs to be in Japan. Similar way to they did in the 2010s. Like, you didn't see New Japan, world title defenses in the US all the time. It was like, you just didn't expect it because you were like, no, it happens in Japan. Like when we had the world title change when Jay White lost the belt to Okada at the Madison Square Garden show, it was like a fucking shock because you were like, what? Like, what are we doing? Like, this is so cool. Like, we're seeing the first one in like the US. And then it became a thing where the world title matches on them shows didn't even fucking matter. And you're like, what are we doing? So it's like, it makes sense to me. Like, you might not like the split or him keeping hold of that belt. You might feel like you want to get that belt off him. But the first time that he goes to the US after the Tokyo Dome, a Tokyo Dome, that had more world subscribers than anything like they've ever had. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho was 100,000. This one had 150,000. Just on World alone that saw this. And you're going to have him beat by a guy that's just lost the number one contenders match in AEW. Like, why the fuck would I do that? Sense. I wouldn't fucking do it. And it's like, instead you say, these are our guys, this is New Japan Pro Wrestling. And all these same guys, Aaron Wolf are all on the posters in Japan as well. It's like, these are our guys. This is New Japan. And it's such a relief in a way to see them do that. And, look, they've got an AEW story coming. There was lots of comments by Callum Newman this week that got picked up and people got worked by them again, the same way they did Tsuji. And obviously, there's an Ospreay story coming. You can sell that from New Year's Dash. I think that's going to come quicker than people think, especially by the summer. So it's a case of they're building towards that now. But yeah, I thought he looked like the fucking man, and he's doing good stuff. Like, I don't really care so much about the hatred of Jake Lee. I thought the build was very good. The match was Jake Lee being Jake Lee. He has to control that better. But it's like the way that he's presenting himself and the way that he's kind of fighting his corner, whether publicly or privately, for the locker room as well. Fair play to him. But yeah, I actually thought they got that right, and it's promising. It's not perfect, but it is promising. Yeah. I don't know. Talking too much now.
That's all
Talking
right.
too much now.
New beginnings. Good show.
Yeah, it was a good show. David Finlay, interesting look to David Finlay at the moment. So he did he picked the mic up at the end of his match with Fred Russell. He won, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to say something I don't." And someone pointed out to me, you'd think if he was going to AEW or WWE, he'd be when they get really cut when they're going to WWE.
Yeah.
He's kind of not really cut right now. Just kind of makes you wonder. I don't know. Yeah, it's a strange one, but yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with him? That always keeps moving. Let's see where Hiromu goes as well. But yeah, it's an interesting time. I like the freshness of it. I like kind of anything that feels fresh, I think, and different. And it's still a challenge, but we'll see. Yeah. I have talked too long. Just before what?
You're fine.
Yeah.
You got stuff to say it.
Yeah, but no, it's good. That's good. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Just before we do this last topic, and the reason why it's last is because it's feedback that we've had from everybody that people prefer that we give them the choice, that we put things that are more challenging to listen to, or things that people sometimes just don't want to listen to because of experience in their own lives. We put it last. So, but I do want to say thank you for the feedback from our discussion at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, it was really nice to hear from people. We had some really kind comments that were very moving to us and made us feel better. I don't want to say feel better. I don't think better. I think there are times where you and I want to make sure we're always trying to be as thoughtful as possible on topics like this. And we're always trying to be as nuanced and as possible and try to talk about it like adults and in a way that kind of looks at every side of it, and to hear back from people that we were successful in their mind with that is really gratifying, because I think sometimes you sort of second guess yourself. I think you and I both had that thing where you turn off the Zoom and go, shit, did this come out the way we meant it to?
We do all the time, right?
Oh yeah. So I think for both of us, we can't thank you enough for people who took the time to reach out to us. It really means something. So thank you very, very much.
No, we really appreciate the feedback, and we really appreciate kind of people kind of reaching out to us and talking about how it affected, how things have affected them in their own lives, and how they appreciate us sharing kind of experiences and that sort of thing. Because you can easily jump over topics like that. You can easily kind of, a lot of people did. They chose not to talk about it, not to discuss it. So yeah, we really do appreciate it, because it's not easy. It's not easy. So yeah, we'll never shy away from anything like that. So that's kind of our promise, isn't it, to you as a listenership. So last topic is so Janelle Grant did probably first public appearance.
I think this was her first time she spoke publicly about everything that's happened with the lawsuit and the Wall Street Journal, and it was very moving. She had it was a Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence.
Yep.
So she talked about specifically non-disclosure agreements and workplace misconduct cases. That she was brought in and basically talked about how she had this article in the Wall Street Journal and she was told you can't talk about it, which was almost more traumatizing, it sounded like, in some ways than, anything else. So it was, I don't know. I really recommend people just go in and listening to it if you're able to do it. Or, I think Post had a good write-up of it. Give yourself, obviously, if it's not something you feel safe engaging with, that's no judgment here. But if you are, please do seek it out. I think it's really important to hear directly from people like Janelle Grant when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think the main issue with the court case right now is that a lot of folks kind of hit on this headline that the deposition, her notion to get a deposition from WWE or to depose people within WWE was denied. Mm-hmm. But the motion for deposition was not denied forever. There's a hearing coming up in June about whether or not the case should go to arbitration. Because remember, the terms of the non-disclosure agreement are that if they come to a disagreement about the things in the non-disclosure agreement, they will not settle them in court. They will settle them in mediation, arbitration.
Yep.
This is a fairly technical, fairly common thing. We saw this with Tony Khan, with AEW, and Tony Khan with what's his name, Kevin Kelly
and the boys.
Yeah, and the boys. A similar issue with their lawsuit. So if the judge decides that this is not something that should be handled in mediation arbitration and should actually go to a court case, then there will be another hearing to determine depositions. So this idea that they'll never do depositions because of this ruling that was recently had, that's not the case at all. So, I think there were folks who were sort of mistakenly commenting on it as though that was the case.
Yeah. So that comes up in June. So the hearings over whether it should go to arbitration or not. And the emphasis is really on Janelle Grant's team to put the arguments to this not going to arbitration, because naturally it sits on the side of arbitration because that's what's in the contract, right? So you have to show why it shouldn't go to arbitration. But what I thought was interesting in listening to her was some of the things that I guess we think we've forgotten about. The fact that the Wall Street Journal revealed like her NDA. They didn't name her. In fact, I think if I remember rightly, it was a WWE associated journalist that originally named her.
Yes, it was
Brad Shepard.
I think the way, it was Brad Shepard. Brad Shepard, I think is his name. It was a situation in which once the story came out, it was clear, I think Dave Meltzer's reported this, that many people within WWE immediately knew who the story was about, and they knew the name of who the story was about. It was not reported on, again, don't usually report victims' names until Brad Shepard sort of put it out there, and then it was basically common knowledge. Yeah,
so she mentioned that she didn't know until the Wall Street Journal kind of put it out, and she was told she was, in a situation, another job, and having, I think for me it was like listening to having that effective. Could you imagine being in that situation and finding out, as you're trying to make an impression in a new workplace? Like, it just sounds like such a, it just sounds horrendous to be like, have that put on you in that environment and being like, oh my God. But I think it's it's a very critical detail to this case for those that, have forgotten the details, and it's been so long now, I don't blame anyone who has, because the breaking of the NDA, according to Vince McMahon, the WWE side, is that, she broke it with the Wall Street Journal. But she didn't go to them, but that's the accusation, right? So it's clear that for the Wall Street Journal side, that somebody from WWE gave them that information.
Right.
And then she finds out when, they tell her this thing is going to be published. And then the other thing that was kind of striking was she spoke about the investigation that WWE said they were doing prior to Vince McMahon coming back. And she said that they never reached out to talk to her, which is a direct contradiction to what WWE said. So the things that in terms of the breaking the NDA and the argument from the McMahon side relies upon in terms of, because that's why Vince said he stopped payment, right? So he stopped payment because he thought she broke the NDA.
She broke the NDA, right?
Yeah. And then so once that happens, then does that mean that the conditions of the contract are then void, and then thus that this shouldn't go to arbitration? So it's quite a key detail. But the other thing for me, when she's talking about potentially like Nelly having committed suicide and that sort of thing, and not feeling like she could leave a house, not feel like she could do a thing. It's like having your voice cut off, isn't it? Like she couldn't talk about things, and like having that removal of your voice. And I just thought it was a very powerful thing to watch. I think, that it's hard because I watch it and I'm moved by like having to listen to what she's been through since. You're a victim in the start, and then it's like being re-victimed all over again.
Right. Re-victimized, yes.
Yeah, re-victimized. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me, because it's like you can't live your life as you once could. Like you can never escape. It's like not being able to escape it, because now you live in a situation where you're scared to live your life, and that's kind of, it kind of sits with me.
I think a lot of what she talked about seems like it's a thread that goes through a lot of survivors of sexual violence, is, that sense of not feeling like you're being re-victimized by people discussing it as much as you were the first time. And, that loss of control, especially, because sexual violence is such a loss of control, and to have that control taken from you again when it comes to ways in which people are discussing it, has to be incredibly, incredibly traumatizing and difficult.
And then feeling like you're being mocked. Like, she noted the WWE storyline with the,
right.
She referred to a storyline, but I think it's obvious to pretty much everybody that it was the Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan one with the photos and that sort of thing.
Yep.
That were easily identifiable as playing on the case. And we talked about ways that can affect like SEO and searching and that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like and that's the thing where you look at this culture, that wasn't under Vince McMahon.
Nope.
This was under Paul Levesque and his kind of creative team that came up with that. So when you look at how much has that culture changed, how much is that culture looking at this and treating it seriously, or was it just a part of a power struggle? That's what you kind of are left with. But it's, I think, and the thing about that is, I think the one thing that I really struggled with afterwards was seeing, and look, I know that social media is algorithm driven. I know there's a lot of robots and everything else, I'll clear that. But seeing some of the reactions to this, and, rather than having a discussion or anything like that, or, or thinking about what she's saying or anything like that, it just became this kind of smear campaign, or like they were mocking her in a way. And it just makes you think, why does anybody even stand up? Like, because it's just so demoralizing. And I know this is like a cultural thing at the moment, and there's a kind of, you can see it across society, can't you? Women's voices, as much as we push forward, we seem to be pushing backwards at the same time so much as well. But it just made me sad. It just made me sad to watch like the reaction to it, and just think about still how this power imbalance exists in society, that someone can talk about how they've had their voice lost for so long and try to say something. Sometimes that can be like cathartic, right? It can help to step forward, that you can feel like you say something after all this time. And then I hope to God that she never saw any of it, any of that reaction. Because then you've got to, it just makes me so despondent. But no, it's something to watch. If you can watch it in full, we're not going to do it justice by talking about it, because it's impossible to. But I think there's something about that humanization of somebody, of being able to see and hear the words from someone rather than just reading it in legal text, of what they've been through, and not even what they've been through in terms of, when they were victimized the first time, but what they've been through since, and how that affects their life. And it's crazy in a way that we're talking about this with wrestling. Like it feels like so at odds with everything else that we talk about, but that's the way this industry is. It's like this confusing sometimes in how things kind of correlate. But how much is there anything that's going to change that culture that allows us to is there anything that's changed within that culture? Are we ever going to ask the questions on it? Can anybody ask the questions on it? Probably not. And then you look at it and you think in 6 months, that's where you get into the doom scenario, and you think, if this goes to arbitration, then does it just disappear?
Yes.
And and then nothing else will ever change. Will it? Oh, I don't know. It's depressing. But
it is depressing.
I respect her for, for finding the ability to talk publicly, to put her voice out there, and to be heard, because it's so important that people are, even if that in the current environment the response may be not what it should be. There we go. Right. Yeah. Keep we have these difficult endings recently.
Should I say dude wipes again to make you feel better?
No, it's just difficult, isn't it? But this is where we're at the moment. Like we have this kind of conflation of kind of, things that are just like your generic wrestling issues, and then we talk about big business issues with like Paramount and that sort of thing, and then we have these really serious discussions around the culture of wrestling, and they kind of all are cumulative. But it feels so weird to jump from place to place, but there's no other way of doing it. So it's a strange feeling, but that's what we have to do, then that's what we do. Yeah, we started out with Clown in a Box. It's mad, isn't it? Right.
Fun stuff first, right?
Fun stuff first, and then that's what our listeners asked us to do. So that's the order that we do it. I think I can do close this week. I'm not going to screw it up.
Let's
go. Here we go.
I'm sending you all my confidence.
Thanks. So this has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. You can find us on Red Circle. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us on Twitter at Trish and Sarah. You can find us on Blue Sky under our own names, and you can find our content on YouTube. You can also find us in the Social Suplex Discord. Come into the Social Suplex Discord, where you can interact with all hosts of the podcasts on the network, as well as fans from across the wrestling world. While you're there, you can also go to socialsuplex.com and have a good read of our newsletter. Obviously, the issue came out last week, with including a look back on Tanahashi's career, Royal Rumble reviews, CML, Eve, giant New Japan, giant Japan section, including lots of contract details on New Japan, but also just some incredible reviews for the last month, and most of them live because of the presence of people over in Japan. So make that a destination. While we are here, and the person that has to look after us the most, is Leah, our fabulous producer of Tunnel Talk. Please listen to Tunnel Talk every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
It's your Sunday routine. Like, you don't do nothing else on a Sunday. Like, no football, no Sunday dinner, none of it. You do Tunnel Talk first and everything else later. But yeah, if you want your fill of a breakdown of everything kind of story character related in AEW, it's Tunnel Talk every Sunday. Best Pods competition upcoming or ongoing.
Oh, very excited about that.
There we go. It's a good time to tune in. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and that's Revolution, right? That's
Revolution will be in 2 weeks.
So I know we've had a few requests to do some more kind of match breakdown stuff. So maybe we'll do that. We can look at what works well, what doesn't, and that sort of thing. So if that is what you're into, if you want us to hear us kind of break down a show, we've not really been able to do it since Wrestle Kingdom in full, then that's the one for you. So until then, I've been Trish.
I've been Sarah.
And this has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, and we thank you for listening.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.